welcome back to In This Corner. I'm Amber Dixon, this time joined by James Smitty Smith of In This Corner TV and Lee Groves, boxing historian and with CompuBox. And guys, we are going to talk about Wilder Fury 3, the trilogy that is finally happening. Their last fight, the rematch, February 2020. Tyson Fury stops Deontay Wilder in round 7. Their first fight was a draw, and that was all the way back in December 2018. October 9th, 2021 is when they finally meet for this rubber match, and we've got some odds on them. Deontay Wilder plus 230, the underdog, and Tyson Fury minus 270, nearly a 3-1 favorite. I'll start with you, Smitty. Who are you picking to win and why?
I've got to go with Tyson Fury again. I mean, if we break it down simplistically, he's the bigger man in terms of height and reach. He's the better boxer of the two, the younger of the two. But the most important thing, of the nearly 19 rounds that they fought, I think Fury's won about 16 of them, of those rounds. And I just can't see what Wilder can do to turn it around in these 20 months or whatever it's been since that second fight. I just don't see it.
And so you'd have to lay $270 on Fury just to win 100 if you take that bet. Lee, who are you picking to win and why?
I'm choosing Fury because, as Howard Cosell famously stated, there are horses for courses and there are styles for fighters. And in the first two meetings, Fury proved that he could win in multiple ways. In the first fight, he outboxed Wilder for long stretches, and in my opinion, he did more than enough to win despite suffering 2 knockdowns. I had it 115, 111 for Fury because of his cleaner punching, his better defense, and his ring generalship kept Wilder from being the effective aggressor. So he covered all 4 criterion in that regard. In the second fight, Fury called his shot, and he made all his shots come true. He said he would weigh 270, and he weighed 273. That was the easy part. He said he would go right at Wilder, and he went right at Wilder. He said he would beat Wilder up, and he beat Wilder up. You know, many years ago, E.F. Hutton had an ad campaign where the tagline was, "When E.F. Hutton talks, people listen." And in that vein, when Tyson Fury talks about how he's going to fight Deontay Wilder, I'm going to listen.
Now we are, because ahead of that last fight, he was saying, this is my plan. I'm going to come in and fight as the bigger man. We didn't know at the time if he was just saying that to throw everybody off, but he actually did come in and execute that plan and says he plans to do the same exact thing, bringing this fight to Deontay Wilder and trying to walk right through him. The betting numbers, as I told you, if you just pick a straight winner, they don't offer all that much value. So let's talk about method of victory. If someone wants to pick how these guys will win, Smitty, how do you think Fury is going to get this win? By KO or decision?
Well, you know, I hate to vacillate, because you know I'm not given to vacillation, ambiguity, and ambivalence much, Amber, but it all depends on the way, for example, Wilder fights. And I think the only way Wilder really can win, to take it a little bit further, is if he comes out and right away establishes command of the ring at T-Mobile Arena. I think if we get into round number 3 and Wilder hasn't hurt or put down Fury, the fight's over. And I think at that point, it'll just be a matter of whether Fury applies enough pressure to do what he did in the second fight, stop him in the 7th round. Lee mentioned he has a couple of different blueprints, but I think the one that he used and utilized in the second fight is where he needs to begin the third fight. Go right at him, rough him up, put the weight on him. I think he'll weigh, by the way, I think he might weigh more than the 273, and I think you'll see a lot of the thing where he'll put that weight. And Wilder has those spindly Tommy Hearns kind of legs, you know, for a heavyweight. And to me, one of the reasons why he lost his legs wasn't the damn suit that he had on, or any drugs that were put in him or tainted water. It was more of the weight and the sheer size and mass of Tyson Fury.
So you can see Fury winning by KO or decision.
Actually, I can. And I think on this one, I'm not even going to get pinned down to an actual thing. I'm just going to pick Fury to win the fight. But I think he can do it either way. Whereas I don't think that Wilder can do it either way. He's only got one method to get it done, and that's a knockout. And again, if he doesn't hurt this guy within the first 3 rounds, if he doesn't hurt Fury or put him down within the first 3 rounds, the fight is over.
Fury by KO, those are the shortest odds. Fury by decision plus 225. Lee, where are you leaning on this? How do you think Tyson Fury will win?
You know, while I think that Wilder is going to fight better than he did in the rematch, one, because he couldn't have fought much worse or had a worse result. Fury is still going to be bigger. He's still going to be bulkier. He's still going to be trickier. He's still going to be more versatile. He can win in more ways. He can box, he can punch, he can fight southpaw, he can fight right-handed. He could be the long-range ring general, or he could rough him up, just like Smitty said. Fury is an anomaly. He stands 6 feet 9 inches tall. He has an 85-inch reach. But when he's at his best, he moves very well. He has excellent upper body movement. He has those quick twitch feints with the hands and the feet that could really screw other fighters into knots. And he can hit like a truck. He hit hard enough to knock out Deontay Wilder and knock him down several times. So if he's in shape, if he's motivated, and if he doesn't allow complacency or overconfidence to creep in, he's going to beat Wilder again.
And you
know,
think
Amber, on that
KO or decision?
I think it's going to go the distance because, first of all, neither man has fought since February 2020. And I think it's going to take some time for them to shake off some of the ring rust. Second, neither man is a house of fire when it comes to work rate. The typical heavyweight averages about 44 punches per round, about 44.3. In the first fight, Fury averaged 27 punches a round to Wilder's 33. In the rematch, and Fury was very active in that fight, he still averaged only 41 punches to Wilder's 22. So for this reason, I see a tight, tense, long-range boxing match with some slugging mixed in. And both are going to keep a sharp eye on the other so that they're not going to get nailed by a punch they don't see. As long as you're watchful and as long as you're aware of the other man's power, it's less likely that you're going to get knocked out. So I think this is going to go all the way for those reasons.
Okay. And what were you going to say, Smitty?
Well, you know, one of the things about the weight, typically you don't like to see a guy who's already perhaps a little bit heavy, like a Fury, heavier. But I really believe that weight that he put on, the extra weight that he put on for fight 2, and what he might even do for fight 3, if it's not too much, will aid Fury, especially in the ability. It won't help his punching power a damn bit, but it will help him, in my opinion, absorb Deontay's power and take away from that. I think the extra weight aided him in absorbing the punishment. And again, also being able to just bulk your way in there and put all that weight on him. You know, he really, talk about ring generalship, especially in that second fight. Fury really controlled it all. So I think that excess weight for him did him a lot of good, can do him a lot of good in this trilogy fight. And as for, you know, Deontay Wilder's, I was on another show the other day and they said, well, what would you have done if you were working with him? And I said that I all these different nuances that they worked on with him, with Wilder, I think will create hesitancy in him. And hesitancy in his reaction, I think, will decrease his chances of landing that right hand, because he's going to be thinking about all this crap that he's been taught, that he's been taught for this fight. The guy's 35 years, I think he's 35 years old, isn't he?
36 later this month.
Yeah, later this month. And, you know, he's fought this way his entire career. And all of a sudden you're going to work on the nuances of infighting with a guy that's 6'7" and spindly legs. You know, he's going to go back to what got him there anyway. But I think that hesitancy, trying to do what his trainers are working on, I think is going to be a no-no. So if I would have been working with him, I would have said, let's work on the jab, the most important punch in boxing. Let's throw it more. Let's throw it with more power. Let's throw it with more accuracy. Work on your balance, get those legs together, tighten up that, work on your distance, leverage, and timing, which can set up that right hand off the left jabs, and then composure. When you do hurt a guy, don't go in crazy, and wild, and just be composed. Those would have been just 3 or 4 little things instead of trying to take Wilder and make him Chocolatito.
I think that of the two guys, Tyson Fury obviously is the better boxer, and it's kind of unique and fun because he's such a huge, giant guy, and to see someone so big with such a skill set and knowledge of boxing, such an educated boxer, but that's not the style that he plans to implement. And it was that style that I think kind of got him in trouble with Otto Wallin, and then also with Deontay Wilder in their first fight, which is why Tyson Fury switched to the more aggressive approach. I am picking Fury to win, but I don't see this going the distance. I definitely see it ending with a knockout. Now, that brings us to the over-under for how many rounds, and that total has been set at 7.5 at station casinos. The over is getting the 120 juice, the under 7.5 rounds plus 100. I don't know. This one's a hard one. I mean, you think about their last fight, it went 7 rounds. It ended in the 7th round.
I just think these guys know each other, and there's so much on the line. They've already spent nearly 20 rounds in the squared circle. I think they will be cautious at first. I don't think either one of them, especially Wilder, should be, but I think because they know each other so well, I think it lends to something that if we do see a stoppage, I do believe it'll be after 8 rounds, or certainly after, what is it, 7.75, 7.5 rounds.
So
it'll be 8 rounds. So I would take that. I think the fight will go over. I think it'll go into the 8th round. From that point on, I could see Fury breaking him down and stopping him again.
I agree. I think it's going to go over as well. I have a video of the first fight playing behind me, and I do think that Fury is going to meld the 2 strategies that he used in fight 1 and fight 2, and that would work because unpredictability is his calling card. His versatility is his calling card. And anything that would keep Deontay Wilder guessing, especially since he's trying to implement elements of his game that is unfamiliar to him. He's trying to learn to fight like a smaller man when he has been the taller and rangier man in virtually every other fight he's ever fought. And he's doing it at nearly 36 years old. I just think that it's Tyson Fury's fight to dictate. And I think it's going to go longer because of that.
right. And
I would never compare Tyson Fury to Muhammad Ali, but some of the stuff that he did in the second fight, and I expect him to do, is stuff that Ali would do. I remember in the second and third fights with Frazier, Ali, because he was the better boxer, would box for a few moments, get inside, wouldn't try to fight, and then he would hold and put the weight down on Frazier and try to tire him out. So I think Lee's right that there'll be a mixture of boxing. Hey, I can outbox this guy, but I can also beat him on the inside, and I can also, impose my will and my mass and my size, which will again tire out those little skinny long legs of Wilder. So I agree. There'll be a couple of different styles from Fury, where Wilder's always been a one-trick pony. He's been criticized for that, but he's got a pretty damn good record, 42-1-1 with 41 KOs. I think you go back to that trick and you just try to do a better job of disguising the trick so it becomes a trick, and then perhaps you can pull off the the victory.
in their
Luxuries
rematch,
of being an anomaly.
Right.
in their rematch, the fight was stopped 1 minute and 39 seconds into the 7th round. And to be fair to Deontay, I mean, it was because his corner threw in the towel. So the over well, it already did go over the 7.5 rounds in their rematch, but it could have gone longer had his corner not thrown in the towel.
Well,
He
they had
said
to
about
throw
that,
they had to throw in the towel.
He also accused his corner of putting something in his drink so that he didn't perform well, almost like drugging him. So he has had a lot of denial in the aftermath of that rematch, which makes me question his mental health. We already know that Tyson Fury suffers from mental health issues, although he claims that while he's training in boxing, that's the healthiest mentally he ever is because of the strict regimen. So there's so many strange surroundings to the fight that it's why it's a hard one for me to pick. And we had talked about a couple of weeks ago when we saw a picture of Tyson Fury getting off the plane in Las Vegas. He looked rail thin and kind of sickly almost, which was bizarre, but he looks better now. And he's obviously putting on the weight to be the much bigger man come Saturday night.